Okay, so today I have a little bit of a kind of a personal preference sort of video, and I want to talk about my top five favorite carbohydrates. And of course, in this scene of natural gut health reversal, there's a lot of low carb dieting going on, and not just low carb dieting, but restrictive dieting in general. And I do think, obviously people get results with these restrictive diets, at least short term. But in terms of sustainable results, building a long term system, you don't want to exclude carbohydrates. Obviously, you have to find your pocket with it, and some people might do best, lower carb in the long term. But I do not think being in ketosis all the time is going to be the long term answer for anybody. It's all about not fearing any macronutrients. And I think it's ultimately about building metabolic flexibility. And, if you avoid carbohydrates completely and you feel great, but the only way that you can feel great is to completely avoid carbs, then you're not very metabolically flexible. We don't want to get to a point where we just avoid all these foods. We want to get to a point where we can digest and assimilate all three macronutrients equally, essentially. So obviously starting low carb, great idea, I think, for some people, just get a feel for things, sort of gathering information. But ultimately, I think carbohydrates are extremely important, and I think avoiding them for too long is going to run some people into the same sort of walls that people on like vegan diets hit. I think overall you need to return to this some sort of form of balance. But like I said, I want to make this more of a kind of personalized video for me and my favorite carbohydrate sources and how I've gone about plugging carbohydrates into my diet, because I myself did go through a pretty long period of low carb keto-ish dieting. But now these days I've definitely brought my carbs up and ultimately found a more balanced and inclusive way of eating that's gonna keep my health optimal and keep my skin clear at the end of the day. So I'm gonna hop into these. Like I said, I'm gonna list my favorite five. Of course, there's other carbohydrates out there, but these are the ones that I am eating the most consistently and are the biggest pieces in my diet. So the first one I want to list off is raw milk. So raw cow milk, raw goat milk, I love them both. I have a local herd share program that I'm picking up my milk from nowadays. I was off the raw milk for a while because my source had a big jump in price and I just couldn't make that happen any longer. But I'm back on the milk. One of my favorite carbohydrate sources. It's a complete food, so it has carbs, fat, and protein. For most people, they think dairy is bad. I'm not on that train. I think a lot of people probably aren't going to respond well to store-bought milk. Some people definitely may. Especially if it's high quality. Of course, pasteurization isn't a terrible process either. I think some people can get some good quality pasteurized milk that might work for them. But number one for me, milk. Love milk. When I have it available to me, I drink it just about every day. My second carbohydrate source is going to be fruit. So when I was low carb, I kind of had this feeling in my head that fruit was bad, and I almost felt bad when I would eat fruit. And especially in the summer months and things like that, these days I eat a lot more fruit than I used to, and I really don't have any restrictions on it. I'll eat as much fruit as I want to. Generally speaking, my favorite kinds: bananas, berries, apples, pears I love as well. But I mean, even the more sugary stuff. Bananas are obviously a little bit more sugary, but pineapples, things like that. I could do it all. I drink a lot of orange juice as well. Every day, just about, I'll drink some orange juice. So for the most part, with fruits for me, it's orange juice, apples, some pears, berries. Those are kind of my go-to sort of fruits. The third carbohydrate I'm going to have for you guys today is raw local honey. So another thing that I have just about every day, and just like the milk, it's a fiberless source of carbohydrates. I'm always talking to you guys about finding your fiber threshold along with your kind of carbohydrate threshold. So honey's a great one. Great for the immune system, really easy to digest, obviously higher in sugar. So if you're anti-sugar, some people shy away from that stuff, but I love it. I think it's one of the first carbohydrates that a lot of people coming off of a low-carb diet should introduce, because like I said, I just think it's easy to digest, and it's animal-based, and it's low fiber, and almost everybody is going to do well with at least, a moderate amount of honey. All right, so my fourth carbohydrate source is going to be potatoes. So I'll have sweet potatoes and white potatoes. Doesn't matter to me. I dress them up differently when I have white potatoes. Sometimes I like to put a little bit of raw cheddar cheese melted in there. Absolutely delicious. Love having it with my steaks and things like that. Sweet potato, I usually put a huge scoop of butter in there, and even a little bit of honey and maybe a little bit of cinnamon. I like to kind of sweeten those up. So obviously nightshades are something that a lot of people are going to tell you to stay away from, but I do just fine with them. I don't necessarily overdo it. I like my potatoes. I've never had much of an issue with them, so I eat them pretty consistently throughout the week. All right, so the fifth and final carbohydrate source that I have for you guys today is going to be essentially just grains, all grains, rice, oats, sprouted bread, things of that nature. And these are carbohydrates that I don't eat every day. Maybe once or twice a week, I'll have some grains, I'll have some rice with some fish, maybe I'll have a couple pieces of sprouted grain toast over the weekend. Some weeks I don't have any grains whatsoever. It just kind of depends, how I'm feeling. So this is not something that, like I said, I think most people are going to do best getting the majority of their carbohydrates from. I think those other carbohydrates that I've listed, the dairy, honey, fruit, tubers, things like that, I think those are probably your best bet in terms of your kind of staple carbohydrates. But, I've grown over time coming off of, a background of restrictive dieting, not to fear food, and understand its purpose, and understand that everything has a time and place. And like I said at the beginning of the video, this is about metabolic flexibility. You want to be able to run off of as many different kinds of foods as you possibly can. And I think healing diets are supposed to be extremely simple, and extremely simplified diets are the way to go if you're trying to reverse your skin health. But ultimately, it's a process of growth. And ultimately, you're going to grow from there and start to find more balance with the way that you look at food and, the way that you formulate your days of eating. So this is kind of a remake of a video I did in the past, one of the first videos I made on this page. But that's all I got for this one. Like I said, carbohydrates are not the devil, guys. You just got to find your pocket with it, find and ultimately learn how to utilize them for energy in the most efficient way. So like I said, that's it. As usual, head to my website if you guys want to check out my additional resources, watch my training, book a call if you want a free consultation, and then also my, of course, my supplement regimen. So like I said, that's going to do it. I'll talk to you guys in the next one.